The late Phil Newton was synonymous with underwater exploration, whether it was with his inventions, submersibles, suits, and even proposed underwater habitats. This article was from several years ago about Phil Newton and Vent Base Alpha.
Welcome to Colonize the Ocean podcast, where we discuss oceanic colonization, exploration, and education with your hosts Adam Jewell and Brendan Traxler.
Living under the sea. It's the stuff of, well, kind of sounds like science fiction, right?
Yeah, like something straight out of my childhood fantasies.
But what if it wasn't fantasy? What if it were actually possible?
Okay, now you've got my attention. Tell me more.
Today, we're diving deep with a man who's not just dreaming of life under the waves, he's trying to make it happen.
You're talking about Phil Newton, right? The submersible guy.
The one and only.
I've heard the name, seen it in articles and stuff, but honestly, he's someone I need to know more about.
Well, get ready to be amazed, because Newton's story is seriously next level. We're talking deep-sea exploration, groundbreaking inventions, and a vision of the future that's, well, pretty mind-blowing.
All right, you've piqued my curiosity. Let's start from the top. Who exactly is Phil Newton?
Imagine a mix of Jacques Cousteau, Elon Musk, and maybe a dash of Indiana Jones for good measure.
Okay, now that's a combo I gotta see.
This guy's a legend in the world of deep-sea exploration. He's a renowned inventor, a passionate explorer, and the mastermind behind Nuytten Research.
Nuytten Research, that's the company that builds those incredible submersibles, right? The ones you see on those documentaries exploring shipwrecks and whatnot.
You got it. Newton's the brains behind those underwater marvels.
So we're talking about someone who's pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible underwater.
Exactly. But here's the thing. Newton's vision goes way beyond just building cool submarines. He wants to create a permanent human presence under the sea.
Now that's ambitious. But where does this guy even begin? Was he always fascinated by the ocean?
Oh, absolutely. This is a guy who dove headfirst into the deep end at a crazy young age. We're talking opening his first dive shop at just 16 years old.
16! I was just getting my driver's license at 16. This guy was already running a business. Talk about dedication.
Dedication. This was more like an obsession, a calling. This guy was born to be underwater.
From dive shops to designing submersibles, that's quite a journey. But I have to ask, didn't he also work with James Cameron on The Abyss?
That's right. He designed and built the submersibles used in the film. But rumor has it, their collaboration wasn't exactly smooth sailing. Apparently, they butted heads quite a bit on set.
Oh, really? I'd heard whispers of that, something about a clash of the Titans. So what happened? Did they end up settling their differences in an underwater duel?
Thankfully, it didn't come to that. As the story goes, the crew finally convinced them to sit down, hash things out, and believe it or not, they ended up becoming good friends.
No way. Talk about burying the hatchet. Or maybe I should say submerging. Never mind.
You know, they say there's something about the deep sea that brings people together.
Well, if Newton's work is good enough to impress James Cameron, it must be something truly special. So these submersibles, they're kind of Newton's claim to fame, right?
You could say that. How he's going to make this whole living under the sea thing a reality.
Okay, I'm hooked. Break it down for me. What makes these submersibles so special?
Imagine for a second, like the most high-tech, most capable underwater vehicles you can think of.
Like those futuristic subs you see in movies.
Even better. Nuytten builds a couple of different types, but the real stars are the deep worker and the dual deep worker.
Deep worker. Dual deep worker. Those names sound intense.
They are. One's a single-person sub, the other's built for two. They can withstand insane pressure, explore the deepest trenches. It's pretty wild stuff.
So if you want to brave the abyss, Newton's your guy. But those things gotta cost a fortune, right? We're talking millions, probably tens of millions, to build just one.
You'd think so, right? But here's the thing about Newton. He's not in it for the money.
Really?
He's all about making deep-sea exploration accessible. His submersibles are designed to be way more affordable than you'd think.
Hold on, affordable. How affordable are we talking here?
Okay, so picture this.
Yeah.
You want a luxury sports car, top of the line, all the bells and whistles.
I'm following.
That'll set you back, what, a couple $100,000?
Something like that, yeah.
Now imagine getting a submersible, a real deal deep sea explorer, for about the same price.
Wait, seriously?
Nuytten's subs cost somewhere between $1 and $1.5 million.
That's actually a lot less than I was expecting.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's the whole point. Nuytten wants to open up the ocean to everyone, not just governments and billionaires.
So instead of keeping this incredible technology to himself, he's basically democratizing access to the deep sea.
Exactly. He wants scientists, filmmakers, even universities to have the chance to explore.
That's a pretty amazing vision when you think about it. He's not just building submersibles, he's building a community.
And hopefully he's building the future. But speaking of building, we got to talk about his most ambitious project yet. Remember Vent Base Alpha?
Oh yeah, the whole underwater city concept. Now that's what I call thinking outside the box. Or maybe I should say thinking inside the dot pressure sphere.
Pretty much. Imagine a self-sustaining city thousands of feet below the surface, powered by the Earth itself.
Powered by the Earth? What does that even mean?
It all comes down to these things called hydrothermal vents. Basically, imagine underwater geysers spewing super hot water from the Earth's crust.
Okay, that sounds kind of scary, not gonna lie.
It's actually incredible. These vents create these unique ecosystems, teeming with life that thrives in extreme conditions. But more importantly, they could hold the key to powering an entire underwater city. Okay, I gotta admit, the whole underwater city powered by volcanoes thing sounds pretty wild. But how does that actually work?
Well, remember how we were talking about hydrothermal vents?
Yeah, those underwater geysers.
Right, they're like natural power plants.
Natural power plants. Okay, you're gonna have to explain that one.
So these vents, they spew out this super hot water, right? Well, that heat, that's geothermal energy.
Geothermal, like the stuff they use to heat houses and stuff?
Exactly. Newton's idea is to basically harness that geothermal energy to power the entire habitat. We're talking lights, life support, everything.
Wow, a city running off volcanic power. That's pretty incredible. But what about everything else? Like, how do people breathe down there? What do they eat?
Good questions. Newton's vision is to make Vent Base Alpha as self-sufficient as possible.
Self-sufficient? How?
Think about it. For food, you could have underwater greenhouses growing fresh produce. Plus, you've got the entire ocean as your seafood market.
Okay, I'm starting to see how this could work. But what about breathable air? Are we shipping down oxygen tanks every week?
Nope. There's already tech that can extract oxygen from seawater. It's like having an underwater oxygen farm.
So you're telling me we could potentially have a thriving city thousands of feet below the surface, completely independent from the world above?
That's the dream. Of course, it's not without its challenges.
Yeah, I can only imagine.
We're talking about building under incredible pressure, making sure everything's stable, creating a completely closed-loop life support system.
Yeah, it's one thing to build a submarine, but an entire city. That's next level.
Exactly. But if anyone can figure it out, it's probably Phil Newton. The guy's a visionary, a pioneer, and he's not afraid to tackle the impossible.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? With all the problems we face up here, climate change, overpopulation, you name it. Maybe the solution isn't looking up at the stars, but down at the ocean floor.
Right. Maybe the next giant leap for mankind isn't into space, but into the depths.
It's a pretty awe-inspiring idea when you really think about it. So what do you say, listeners? Would you trade in life on land for a chance to live in an underwater city?